Welcome to episode number 6 of The Roar, the show for all things Hershey Cubs, players, coaches, personnel, and news. I'm Joshua Gerhardt alongside Clay Thomas, your host and broadcaster of the Cubs 2023-2024 season. With us today are Cubs athletic trainers Kourtnie White and Sara Leiby. Kourtnie and Sara, thank you for joining us, and how are you doing today?
Absolutely. We're happy to be here. Doing well. Busy.
Awesome. Yes, busy is a good way to put it, but
Busy.
happy to have you both
Yeah,
on for sure.
I'm
So
excited to be here. So,
thank you. Yeah. Can you both provide the listeners with some background knowledge on your career and how you landed the position with the Cubs?
Sarah, you can start.
okay, perfect. So I'm Sarah. I'm actually an athletic training student from Lebanon Valley College, and the Cubs was a site placement for me, and it was actually very exciting. It was a little last minute, but it was also just a really great opportunity, and um, it was a great way to get my foot in the door with ice hockey. So I've had such a great time while being there.
Now, Sarah, are you big into ice hockey at all, or is this kind of like a new thing for you?
I grew up watching ice hockey a lot. Never played it, never like followed it intensely, but it was just always one of my favorite sports to watch growing up. I worked with LVC's men's ice hockey team last spring, so spring of 2023, and so that was my first experience doing like medical for ice hockey. And I definitely want to keep going. So being with the Cubs was like my second experience, and I hope to keep it going.
I was about to say, for the listeners back at home, Sarah goes to LVC, and for if they don't know, LVC's got an NCAA D3 program that our coach Brennan Thompson played at. So quite the ice hockey program over there at LVC for sure.
Yes.
Now, Kourtnie, give us some background on your career so far.
Okay, so I'm Kourtnie. I've been a certified athletic trainer since 2010. So I have about 13 years of experience. My first job out, I went to Slippery Rock University in Western PA, if anybody's familiar with that. My first job out of college was actually at a Division II university over near Pittsburgh called Seton Hill. I worked there with football, softball, field hockey, all sorts of sports. I was there for a couple years, and then I took a high school position over here in Lebanon, Cedar Crest High School, and that was a big change for me, just going from a college setting to a high school setting. Um, I actually met my husband at Cedar Crest, and then before we got married, I moved and started working at Central Dolphin East in Harrisburg. So I was there for a couple years. Me and my husband got married at that time. I had a son, Reese, who is now recently into ice hockey. And I worked there probably 4 or 5 years. And then a job at Penn State Health came up, which is the health system I work for in Hershey. And I started a job there for better hours. Having a family, I didn't want to work the high school hours after school anymore. So we decided that ergonomics and wellness was the way to go. I was working normal hours Monday through Friday at Penn State. It was great. And then COVID hit and rocked everybody's world. So I ended up working in the PT clinic during COVID. And my boss came to me one day and was like, Court, what do you think about this ice hockey team? And I was like, well, John, I never worked ice hockey before. I know nothing about ice hockey. I don't really watch ice hockey. I have no clue what to tell you, but like, hey, that's sport coverage and it's like doing my job again. So yeah, I'm interested. Now, my boss, he used to be the strength and conditioning coach for the Hershey Bears.
Oh, wow.
And a coworker of mine is the current physical therapist for the Hershey Bears. So my boss reassured me and said, we have great mentors for you and we will help you every step of the way. So they actually got me in contact with the athletic trainers for the Bears. And I got to meet with them before I started with the Cubs so that I could kind of get my feet wet a little bit. Like, what medical care do hockey players even need? Like, what
A
are their
lot.
common injuries?
Yeah, a lot. Teeth, lots of teeth.
Yeah, teeth. I got lots of
Yeah.
Lots of
Save-A-Tooths.
teeth.
That was one thing that was like, you need to get Save-A-Tooth, you need to get tourniquets. Like, it was like, those are the things you really need. Otherwise, and over the past 3 years with the Cubs, I've kind of learned it's an injury is an injury. Um, Hockey's definitely, it's a different entity, but I've learned a lot about the game. I know there are 3 periods. I'm starting to learn like the players and shifts and all of those things, but it took a while for me to learn and pay attention and watch the game differently than like what you would see on TV. So all in all, I am thrilled that I got this experience to work with the Cubs, and I wouldn't change it for the world. I'm having a blast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you said that Reese has started to get into ice hockey. So it's a good thing you've joined working for the Cubs and everything. But speaking of him, how is it like to bring him around the boys? How does he
Ugh.
interact with them or on the ice in general? Because I mean, when he's there, he's like the star of the show sometimes, it seems.
Yes.
Life of the party.
It warms my heart. I know you both and Sarah have seen Reese and my daughter Emmeline even both on the ice with the guys when I bring them to practice, which is a blessing in itself because like I said, I left my job because of my work-life balance. And the fact that I'm able to have that and continue doing what I love it's crucial. So bringing Reese to the arena is so heartwarming to see the players gravitate towards him, fist bumps all around, high fives. Reese, how's it going? And he goes on the ice and shoots on MA, his favorite player right now. And
Like
I mean, Reese
10 times his
barely.
height.
I was gonna say, like Reese is to his knees. I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm to his knees. Don't feel bad, Reese.
Well, there's not a ton of height difference. Reese, I mean, he loves it, and the guys love him, and he was around it a lot. And then this past summer, my husband and I were like, "Buddy, you wanna learn to ice skate?" And so in June, we signed him up for Learn to Skate, and he was, he took to it, but he was still kind of like, I'm not quite sure I want to be a hockey player now, mommy. I want to be a hockey player when I grow up. Um, well, then we went to a Bears game recently, and he saw the junior Bears actually skate in between periods. Now he's gung ho. We got
Yeah.
him shoulder pads. We got him his first jock, and he is thrilled, like thrilled beyond belief about wearing his equipment every single day. He's rollerblading in the garage, and it is really nice to be able to share this part of my work with him and see him get excited about it too.
Hook,
Yeah.
line, and sinker.
Yes. Him and his sister skate around the kitchen in their socks and they'll fall down on purpose and get injured and throw their hand in the air and say, Kourtnie, I need tape.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
It will be only a matter of time before your garage door has a whole bunch of dents in it.
I
So
know. I feel like we're starting.
yeah, yep. It's
Every
good.
day it's mommy park outside so we can play hockey.
Yep. Park the
Mhm.
car outside of the street. Don't block the
Yeah.
driveway. Yep.
Exactly.
But
But he's loving it.
we mentioned this a little bit earlier, and this wasn't on the questions I had, but I kind of want to, harp on this. Athletic training doesn't really deal a lot of lines with mouth injuries and oral injuries, but a lot of times in hockey, we see oral injuries, occur frequently. So how do you guys prepare for that? If it happens, when it happens, what do you have to do out here, Tooth Fairies?
Go ahead, Sarah.
Kourtnie, okay, I was gonna say, do you want me to take that? So we had a little bit with mouth and oral injuries. So it was a great way for me to get my experience in. Definitely learned a lot. Thankfully, no teeth were lost in the process, but things I've learned throughout the process is either the Save-A-Tooth kit is great. If not, you can tuck it into their cheek so it's still in their mouth, or even putting it in milk and just referring them out right away.
Yeah, I've heard about the
just
milk
making
method.
sure that yeah.
That
The
sounds
other
like
thing
just
we watch for. Sorry. The other
no,
thing we
you're
watch
good,
for as well.
Zoom can be tough.
Yeah.
But I was gonna say that kind of sounds like putting like an old phone or device in rice.
Yep,
Right.
yep,
Kind
yep.
of.
Put it in
Like,
milk.
save it as long as you can.
The
So
rug.
I actually, like you learn about teeth injuries and mouth injuries in college. And I think that's important because, Sarah's learning it right now. So it's really fresh in her mind. Now, I was in college many, many years ago, and I've seen teeth injuries. Like I've seen kids get elbowed. Actually, one of the first injuries that my husband and I worked together, when we worked together, the first injuries we took care of, a baseball pitcher took a line drive to his mouth and his teeth were all over the dugout. So I had seen a couple injuries. I know. Oh, I'm telling you, though,
Sure, my
it takes a
teeth are all
special
still here.
person to talk about that and be okay with it. But of course, my husband's first call was, Kourtnie, you need to get down here. There's a lot of blood. So I feel like I had some good experience coming into the Cup seasons, but I didn't know Protocol, like, do they care if they lose their teeth? Like, this kid I'm talking about, he
Yeah.
was in ninth grade. Um, his dad took him to the doctor. These kids, these Cubs are hours from home. They're, some of them are around there 17, 18 years old. And do I call mom? Like, that's weird, right? Do I have to have a dentist that I'm going to call? I can't just send them away. So I did have to start establishing relationships with different emergency dentistry so that I knew I could call them at 9 o'clock whenever we have a Friday night game. This kid got his tooth knocked out. This is how bad it is. It needs repaired before tomorrow. Like, those are the types of things that the Bears athletic trainers actually did help me develop rapport with different dentists in the area. So that was important to know. But yeah, we see some gory injuries this year. A player took a puck to the mouth. I think it was, Sarah. Was it a puck?
Yeah, it came off his stick, it, like rolled up his stick straight into his mouth. Yeah.
Mm.
And they called us on the ice,
Yeah.
and there's blood everywhere. And Sarah's running out there. They're like, "Get a towel, get a towel." Luckily, his teeth were spared. It was
Oh
just
my
his
goodness.
lip. His teeth were spared. But yeah, it's a couple a year probably that we'll see.
Yes.
You
That's
know,
so
From
that's so
chips
interesting though.
to
You never would have thought something would be like so intricate as to like you have to have like somebody on standby, especially just
right.
for teeth. Like
yeah.
usually when it comes to sports injuries for trainers, it's like they can help right away
Mhm.
and patch something up and like make sure they're stable. Like I broke my arm before and I was like waiting for a while, but it was like that's different as compared to you're physically bleeding and oh, your tooth is somewhere in the grass or the ice or the
Right.
court.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. I think I think one of the big things you mentioned here, Kourtnie, was the relationships you've established, right, with the medical personnel in the area. So can you
Yeah.
talk a little bit more about the importance of developing those relationships and what a typical game day looks like for you guys? Like who's on staff in addition to you guys?
Sure. So it does take a team, it takes a village. And I think every athletic trainer knows this, every student athletic trainer knows this. You can't do it all on your own, right? Like, I can do so much. I can do the day to day, but I couldn't even do it without Sarah there every day. Having extra hands and extra support from medical staff to coaching support to teammate support to parent and billet support is crucial. So from a medical standpoint, we have myself, and then obviously this year I had Sarah, my student, which was a lot of help. We really appreciated, and the team absolutely took to her. You guys both saw it. She was amazing with
Absolutely.
them. And then we have a team physician, Stephanie Carey, and then a secondary team physician, Dr. Caitlin Haynes. And then we have an orthopedic surgeon, Dr. Scott Lynch. We have a whole slew of PTs, and we've been using a lot of our foot and ankle doctor at Penn State Health. We are talking psychology to neurology, like every aspect in between. We try to make sure we have a good relationship with all of these people. That way, if there's an injury, when there's an injury, we're not like, okay, now what? What do I do
Right,
next? I
absolutely.
can make the call, and we've got referral underway. So we try and make it as seamless as we can for the athletes, so they're not waiting 2 weeks for an appointment.
Right,
They can
right.
maybe be seen that day or the next. And sometimes their injuries warrant that. That way, they're not going to the emergency department and waiting for 6 hours to get an x-ray. It's something
Yep.
where we can quickly get you an x-ray. Just walk over to this clinic and you can get it this afternoon.
Yeah,
We have an
it's
answer. We know what to do. So when time is of the essence, it's a lot of help.
couldn't agree with you more. Sarah, take it away then.
Oh boy, with just building relationships.
Absolutely.
Yeah. As a student, I think building any relationship with any of my preceptors, any other athletic trainer, any kind of team physician I come in contact with has been such a huge part of like my education. Because like you never know, like out in the real world, who you're gonna run into, who knows who, anything like that. Um, so it's actually kind of been great. Working with Kourtnie has been amazing because this next semester is kind of up in the air for me. I could be going to the XFL or I could be going to a possible high school. I could be going to the
Go to the
military.
XFL.
It's yes, yes,
Go to the
but
XFL. Let's go to the
right.
XFL. Don't pass
If
that
I have the
I
opportunity
mean,
up.
if you
opportunity,
have a choice.
absolutely.
Yeah.
But Kourtnie actually knew a possible preceptor that is in the XFL currently. So that was a crazy connection that we didn't know we had at the moment until we connected the dots. So just forming any relationship is crucial. It could get you anywhere. It could get your foot in any door. And the opportunities are endless when you have the right relationships.
Absolutely. Clay, I think you wanted to add something. I'm sorry if I cut you off there.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, and luckily, with a lot of these injuries that you guys could face and all these procedures, hockey players are generally tougher than most athletes, maybe most humans, I should
I was
say.
about to say most,
But
yeah, they're pretty tough.
but when it comes to the brutal stuff where they can barely even walk, it's understandable.
Mhm.
Yeah,
That is something I definitely learned, their demeanor, their personality, and I think it's different at each level too. At the high school setting where I was, you have, some junior high athletes and they're just like, "Nah, I don't want to practice today." So they'll come in because they have shin splints or this hurts or that hurts and they really just want to sit out. There's not one player on the Cubs team that is looking for an out. They are fighting for their spot every single day. So anything that we can do to keep them on the ice is imperative. We need to make sure we're taping things, massaging or manual therapies, stretching, rehab, whatever it might be. It's get them out as quickly as possible. And when they do suffer that injury where they can't go, it's not fake. It's real. They don't want to sit out. So that's something that's kind of nice. And the whole reason I went into athletic training was they're motivated. Athletes are motivated to get back. I didn't want to try and rehab somebody who's like, yeah, I could or I couldn't, right? That's no fun for me. I want to see that. I want to set a goal and I want to achieve it. So it's nice that all of these guys have the same goals as us. Let's get them back on the ice.
What about on the reverse side as to where some players they don't protect themselves and they're so persistent and so eager to get back out there and want to fight through anything? How can you put your foot down, or how do you just go say, no, you can't do this? Or do you just go like straight to the coach?
Sarah, do you want to chime in?
Sure, yeah. I actually think this team was really good about not doing that. They all looked out for each other so well. It was great. I remember there were many times where one would come in and be like, "You have to go check this person out. You have to go check that person out. Like something's wrong with them." So they all had each other's backs. And when it came to that, you kind of knew like, okay, something's definitely wrong. Um, and none of them really fought us on it. I mean, when it does come to an athlete who's a little more stubborn, um, you just kind of have to, you do kind of put your foot down and you explain like, if we don't do this, this could possibly happen, or if we take this route, like we could get you back sooner than rather than later. And a lot of the times, once they kind of have that understanding and they understand what's wrong with them and how to fix it, they're a lot more compliant and they're a lot more into their care.
Clay, go ahead. Sorry, I'm so sorry.
I was going to say, I think it is important to start off every season, and this isn't just with the Cubs, but every athletic trainer everywhere, but start off and have that talk with them and say, listen, like my job is to have you on the ice. Like a boring day for me is a good day. I don't want you all in my athletic training room sitting here. So like, I'm not holding you out to hold you out. I want you on the ice, right? So telling them kind of, this is the way this goes. However, you have to know my skill, my trade, and that's to make you better. So if I can do anything that's going to put you on the ice and you're going to play better, you're going to play more pain-free than you are, why not take advantage of it? Like we're right here for you. And it's
Right.
free. You show up, we take care of you, and you go back on the ice. So I think it's important to develop relationships, develop trust. That's huge really early on, trying to get them to trust you. And not holding kids out for no reason. And honestly, when you have that first person who you have to hold out and then other teammates see you return them, it helps. They see like, oh, okay, well, somebody else is like, oh, my back feels better than it ever has. Well, all of a sudden, three of them are coming in like,
Yep.
hey, can you do that thing to
we
my
got
back?
to get that magic stuff that Kourtnie
They
has.
talk, exactly. They talk. And it's really nice though. It's important, as we've said this whole time, to develop these relationships. But Sarah, I think, hit the nail on the head when she said this team this year, they're good. They're good players. They're nice to each other. They look out for each other and make sure that everybody is playing safely. They don't want anybody to get injured. They really are. They're good teammates.
There's a lot of quality aspects about this Cubs team this year, and that is one of the many. But we talk about a lot of relationships that you have with like the medical professionals, but what kind of relationship do you guys foster with the players themselves?
I love them.
Yeah,
I do. They are.
absolutely.
I have 30 extra children. I feel like they. I mean, they come in the athletic training room some days because they didn't sleep and they want to talk about it. They come and talk to us when they are having girl problems. When they have a math test coming up, they have to study for this. Their dad is sick. Oh my gosh, their sister was diagnosed with cancer. Like, what do I do? Help me with this. How do I talk to coach about something? I'm not getting playing time. I need to vent to you about this. There's drama on the team. They literally come to us for everything.
Yeah.
I am not qualified for all of that. Believe me. I took like one psych class in undergrad, and I just through experience try and guide them as best I can. Um, but I feel that developing those really trusting relationships early on so they know they can come to us for anything and everything. I mean, I have I feel like when I leave the arena, I I clock out, right? But I still get messages all night long like, "Hey, does it normally take 2 hours for this prescription to be filled?" Or, "What should I do? I have a headache," or, "I was puking all day yesterday. What do you think is the best medicine to take?" Like, it doesn't end. They
Lord.
still
Yes.
continue to reach out and ask, and, I take that not lightly at all because I love it. The fact that I'm the person they trust, and even players from last year are still reaching out to me weekly. Kourtnie, I'm sick. What should I do? My doctor said this. Do you agree? I want your opinion on here, like on this injury, on that injury. I really do. I feel like I do my best to help them as much as possible during the season. But when they leave, I always say, I am always your athletic trainer. And you may not have an athletic trainer the next place you go. So please keep my number and reach out if you need me because I really do care a lot about them.
That's fantastic on your part, Kourtney.
Mhm.
Kudos to you.
Thank you.
And you're better. It's better than going to Google if like anybody else does, and all of a sudden you just find out that whatever you could search in is just a random like death sentence, apparently.
Yes,
Yeah.
they'll freak out,
We
right?
promise you do that. We
Courtney,
promise you
WebMD
do
says this. Is this right?
that.
I
Yeah.
usually say, don't look it up. Don't look it up. Just listen to me. They're usually pretty good about it. But I mean,
That's
I
good.
even look stuff up. I feel ridiculous sometimes. I'm looking up like
Everybody looks stuff up.
favors on Google. Like, I know this stuff. What am I doing?
Yes.
Sarah, your take on this.
Um, I mean, this team was amazing. They still are amazing, of course. Um, I don't really know how to describe it. Like, it was almost like a sibling relationship. Like, they'd come in and they'd pick on me right away because I'm the student. I'm roughly their age, and they're like, "Well, you're not certified," and I'm like, "Yeah, neither are you." So it was great. We all like it was a great like joking little bond. Anytime that I had like a little slip up, like if I was wrapping something and the tape would fall out of my hand, they'd be like, "Oh, how are you gonna pass your certification with that?" So it was great. They all definitely kept me on my toes. Um, Throwing ice at me at practice was always fun, uncalled for but fun. So it was just stuff like that. They were all really friendly, really welcoming, absolutely. Um, but yeah, it was definitely such a great place to be a part of. I loved every second of it. I was so excited to come to clinical every day, and like days that I wasn't going to clinical, I was kind of like, "How's it going? Like,
Even
how's everyone
still,
feeling today?"
even
Yeah,
still, she texts me pretty much every day, like, how's this? How's this one? What's going on over here? Let me tell you about
yeah,
this. I'm watching the game today. You
yeah.
can't get away from it.
I was going to ask you, going off of what you said, who do you, in your time with the Cubs, who is the biggest trickster or prankster, with you?
Go ahead.
So it's pretty tied almost.
Well, we got to hear
Luke
this.
Luke Barnett a lot was always making fun of me, especially if something slipped out of my hand or anything.
I can see
But I
that.
think Marco also, like if I was doing homework or something during some downtime, he'd push the power button on my laptop. And I'm like, dude,
Mhm,
come on.
Oh,
Like,
not
mhm,
the power
mhm.
button move.
yes,
Yes.
definitely the power button. Emil was the one who would throw ice at me every day. Him and XP both got in on it, so they were always throwing ice at me, throwing all the little snowballs. My last day there was absolutely amazing because it was just one big snowball fight, and then they let me kind of like, I didn't have skates, of course, but I was like kind of running around on the ice with them, throwing snowballs back and shooting the puck, which was awesome.
Kourtnie was on standby in case anybody fell.
It was a good
Yes,
day.
yeah.
I was like, oh, I don't want to be watching this, but you know what? It was really, they, sent her off with a lot of love. They called her back
Yes.
to the ice that day into the huddle, and they all just dumped snow on her. We got pictures and videos, and it, like she
Oh,
said, it was a
Lord.
big snowball fight, and it was literally just 30 siblings on the ice, just playing
Yeah.
around and goofing off. Like they
Awesome.
took to Sarah really wonderfully this year. Now we had a student for a few months before, but we haven't had like a full-time student with what we had in Sarah this year. And I thought it was really nice that Sarah started right off the bat. She was there for physicals. She got to know them on day one. She was there almost every single day that we were there. And it wasn't her only rotation. She actually had a second
I
rotation
did.
after the Cubs were done practicing. So on like the beginning of the season when we had 2-a-days, she would come to the arena and she would spend all day at the arena with me. And then after lunch, she would go over to Milton Hershey and work there for
Oh,
for the
Wow.
entire evening, sometimes until
Yeah.
9 o'clock at night. Like she put in so much work, and it was because she wanted to be there. She loved it. Like she loved these guys. I would constantly tell her, like, you need a day off. You need to take care of yourself. Here I am, like this work-life balance. You got to take a day. You got to rest. And she would still show up. I mean, she developed an amazing relationship with the team, with the coaches. It was wonderful to see.
Sarah, I speak for all their team, and I'm sure I speak from everybody in the entire Cubs organization. We miss you. We miss you. We miss you having
I
around
did.
the building.
I miss being there every day.
Yeah.
It's so fun, and like every time I get the little Flow Hockey notification of like a game coming up or anything, I'm always ready to watch it. Like I've got
Yeah.
it, whether it's on my laptop or I put it on the big TV or anything like that. I'm always ready to watch because I will support these guys until who even knows when. Also support them forever. They were amazing.
I'll make sure I give you a shout out on Friday. But, a couple of quick questions here before we close out. So, what are some of the methods you both implement to prevent injuries? Kind of how do you guys treat the injuries and how do you prevent them from going forward?
So prevention is huge in athletic training because if you can prevent something from happening, then obviously you're not having to play catch up at the end, right?
Right.
So this year, there's a whole new workout program that they're doing, and I think that is actually really good. A lot of the exercises and things they're doing are implementing different mobility and stretches that's benefiting them. It's catching it early. I think it's who is coming in with aches and pains, looking at their backs and like, oh my goodness, your back is crooked, or like, why are you walking that way? Just knowing, oh, your hips are tight, your hamstrings are tight. Let's try this. We can prevent an actual injury later on. Just making sure that we're trying to notice those things before they actually come off the ice to us and say, hey, this is bugging me. In a traumatic situation where it's like a contact injury, you
Right.
can't
Yeah.
prevent those things. And unfortunately, that's why we're there, is to take care of those scary moments and those like life threatening sometimes moments, which, knock on wood, we haven't had anything terribly wrong, but there have been some close calls and scary injuries.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah. I know we
even
had
when you see
the Ricky Elias injury. Was that what last year
yeah.
play?
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
was an injury last year, and it was actually at an away game, and I
Yeah.
felt so helpless because I
Yeah.
was sitting here in this room, and I get a call that this happened, and I was like, putting my daughter to bed. No, I'm at home. I'm not on duty, and
Right.
Crystal's calling me. Everybody's calling me, like, what's going on? And I couldn't do anything about it but just call his mom and talk to her and talk to our docs and try and do as much as possible. But yeah, in those moments, you don't you don't think, you act, you help,
Right.
you do whatever you possibly
Right.
can. And thank goodness they had a good medical staff at that game that was able to spine board him and get him in an ambulance and get him medical care quickly. Ricky's doing great. So I just we talk all the time. He's one of the athletes obviously who reaches out a lot, and he's doing really good. He's, up walking, running, he's
Well, that's
lifting,
great to hear.
he's working on his parents' farm. Like he's doing a really good job right now. So what a miracle.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
awesome.
Medical
Yeah,
miracle there. Shout out to you, Ricky Elias. But
absolutely.
you
Yeah.
know, your take on this here. Sarah, sorry.
Oh, sorry. um, yeah, prevention. I mean, of course, those contact injuries you can't really prevent. They're just accidents that just go. They just happen. But definitely rehab, proper exercise, proper form. Those are huge things that go into the prevention of injuries. Even proper diet and nutrition, sleep. Those are also major factors that go into just prevention of injuries. Making sure your body's well rested so it can heal properly. Um, but yeah, as for those emergency situations where it comes to like a cardiac situation or spine boarding or anything like that, you don't just think, you act on what you know, what you've been trained to do. I like had a spine boarding incident this past season with a different location, and it definitely was a situation where you just do, you know what you're doing, you've trained for this, you've prepared for this, and you can think about it after. Your primary goal right there is just to make sure your patient is safe and they're getting to where they need to be safely and as quickly as possible.
You know, and we talk about here, you know, there's a lot of great rewarding aspects with the Cubs, you know, being the athletic trainers here. But like, what is one of the most difficult parts, you know, of being in this field and being with the Cubs? Like, what makes it so hard?
Working with 30 teenage boys, maybe.
That
I
sounds
mean,
fun.
That's valid.
a lot of them talk French. They'll
Yeah.
come in the room and talk French to each other, and I have no idea what they're talking about. Today they were talking about CrossFit, I think. The other day they were talking about the casino. I'm trying to
I
brush
think
up on my French, but I don't know it. I think I feel like I can do this much in their lives and I can affect them this much in their lives. And like I said earlier, I want them, I want to help them on the ice, but I also, the goal of the Cubs is to make these young men like good young men, right? That's a huge goal for this, for the Hershey Cubs is let's make them good people. And I think I don't take that lightly either. I want to make sure that they're respectful, that they're kind, and they're maturing, and they're doing their work, and they're putting hard work in, and they're not trying to get out of things, and they're being appropriate when the time comes. And I get there's locker room talk, and you know, teenage boys will be teenage boys, and I just block it all out and we move on. But I think it's important to hold them accountable, and I do my best and I try really hard to do that. But at the end of the day, we do have 17 and 18-year-olds. Sometimes even our 20 and 21-year-old boys are like boys, teenage boys.
Sarah, your
Yeah.
thoughts on this before we wrap up then?
uh yeah, so definitely I think the language barrier in this setting at least was kind of wild to me. Like, I came in expecting it, but there was like a day Kourtnie was like, "Oh, I need to learn French or something." And I was like, "Why French?" And then here they come, all speaking French, and I was like, "French, got it."
There it is.
And
There it
like,
is. That's why French.
yes, yes. And then like they'd come in and they'd ask for plaster, and I'm like,
Yeah.
"Are we casting? Like, what are we doing?" And they're like plaster, like a Band-Aid. And I was like, "Oh, all
Wait,
right." They
They
don't. They
they
didn't.
call band-aids plasters?
Plaster,
Yeah,
yes.
yeah.
I've never
They
heard that.
didn't know
Clay,
what
do you know about
right?
that?
No, but I guess it kind of makes sense in a
Yeah.
way. Maybe. I don't know. I don't
I
speak
guess,
French.
yeah. I guess their brand, like we have Band-Aid brand, I guess their brand is plaster, and that's why they call it
Oh.
plaster. I think that's what they were explaining to us one day. But they also
That
they don't know what a blister is either, so we
Mhm,
had to it's ampoule to them. So
mhm.
there's no like word, it's just ampoule is the same thing as a blister, but it doesn't translate to blister.
And medical terminology in general is difficult, so then try and
Yes.
explain that to somebody who doesn't speak
Exactly.
English, to somebody who does speak English, but then
Yes.
they're trying. One of the players the other day said to me, "I'm starting to think in English," and I was like, "Huh, that's a good point." Like, you're getting really good at speaking English, and now your thoughts are in English too. Like, they're getting
huh.
there.
Yeah.
We're getting there. One step at a time. It's baby steps with these guys. But,
Right,
you know, I
right.
wanted to ask you guys one last important question here before we
Yeah.
wrap up. So for these players, you know, obviously when they get injured, it's a tough blow to their confidence and their morale, right? So how do you guys, as athletic trainers, keep boosting their confidence, their morale after they suffer an injury?
Go ahead, Sarah.
I I was gonna say, I think it comes in with that trust piece. As long as you have a good level of trust with your patients and with your athletes, and they feel like they can come to you and rely on you for their injuries, um, the compliance you get from them is huge. You teach them about what's wrong with them, you teach them about their bodies, and they're all of a sudden super interested in it, super interested in how they can fix it and how they can prevent it later. And I think that's just a really fun part of the job, honestly. But they're great at being compliant once they know what's going on with them. And sure, it's a huge hit to them, but once they understand, they're okay with it. They're ready to get back on, and they're ready to get better. So
Yeah, Kourtnie, real
I think
quick before we wrap it
yeah,
up.
I think also reassuring them and reminding them there is not anything you can do in this moment to take back what already happened. All you can do is look forward. And here are the steps to go. Set a goal. This is where we need to be. Let's go. Motivate them. Remind them that they're great players and they can do it.
With that, Kourtnie and Sara, thank you for joining us on this edition of The Roar. I'm Joshua Gerhardt alongside Clay Thomas. Find us on YouTube, Hershey Cubs, The Roar, as well as at Hershey Cubs on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok, or Hershey Cubs on Facebook. Hit that like button, subscribe, and or follow us on all accounts. Fear the Roar. And Sara, please come back. We miss you.
thank you.